All right. Next up is our viewer Q&A segment. If you want to contribute a question to future Gumbocast questions or future Gumbocasts, become a member of our Discord. Link is in the description. And also become a member of the Facebook group, which is still facebook.com/gameshowgarbage. We are working on getting that changed over.
And it's good for the comments below, too. We will consider those.
Yep. First one from one of our Discord members, Scottish Garbage Man. This was up your stat alley, so to speak. If James Holzhauer didn't lose to Emma Boettcher, how far do you think he could have gotten in terms of games won? Because if he had won that game and bet how he normally bets, I think he would have broke Ken Jennings' 2.5 million record. We know that would be broken.
Well, yeah. I mean, so that's pretty much implied. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But the question is, how far do you think you got in terms of games won? Although I don't have the numbers in front of me, I'm going to take a wild stab in the dark. I think he gets to around 30, 35.
Well, I mean, he was at 32 when he lost, so he would definitely make 30.
He was at 32 when he lost. 40, maybe?
Does that change your guessing bet?
40.
Sorry?
40.
Okay. So the stats say you're very conservative about this. And I want to give a shout out to the JeopardyFan.com. Andy Saunders, my good friend at the J-Board. Great site. Check it out. Best detailed stats on anything Jeopardy related. Can't say enough good things. So on June 3rd, when he lost his game, there were these stats about Holzhauer. So he was 96.832% to actually win his next game. Can you consider that for a moment, though? That is roughly a 1 in 25 chance to lose on a game where if you have 3 random people and you just pick one of them to win, hypothetically, it's 33. And you have that. That is just absolutely remarkable. I'm just going to do a little bit of calculations that are quick here. Okay, and then we're going to have that. Okay, so he had 10.416666 repeat chance of winning, better than an average player according to this method. His average streak would have been 78.855 games. 75 games, because we're going to compare with Ken, would have been 40.201%. That accounts for days of the week performance, because, the taping is obviously not going to be, it's not taped Monday to Friday, it's done every couple days, and there's 5 shows taped a day. So you might be a little bit better in the morning when your coffee is running strong. You might be better because you're relieved at the end of the day and you're in your groove. You might be somewhere in between.
And let's not forget this important part. During his run, during Holzhauer's run, he had a nice break for one simple reason. The Teachers Tournament. Because Jeopardy tapes all their shows in order. They don't jump around like Wheel does. It's a straight 1 to 225. Or 1 to 230.
Yeah.
Because they tape 230 episodes a year. Can you believe that for game shows nowadays? 230?
Yeah, no, that's remarkable. Can you imagine trying to pitch that now? It was 195, yeah.
The Wheel's 195. Price is 195.
Yeah, price is usually 195. It varies, but yeah, that's the norm.
Let's Make a Deal is 175. Family Feud is the exception to this because they have 200. That's because they double run.
And Family Feud, I think, takes a lot less writing itself than the other shows do. Even less so than Wheel, because writing a survey question, because the respondents do all the work for you. So, Anyway, though, so according to Saunders' methodology, it's 78.85 games, and as mentioned, that accounts for days of the week. So the thought is that while you have to consider average versus what the 75 was for Jennings, 40.201, because again, we were talking about distributive data. Because if we have 100, that's going to skew the average a little bit higher. So the thought is, though, that he actually would not break Ken Jennings' streak. The thought is that he would break probably somewhere around the 68 to 70. Let's see, we can probably reverse engineer that. If it's 4-4. Yeah, the thought is that he would probably win 71, 72 games using Saunders' methodology, which he discusses at the Jeopardy fan. Again, back to that site. Use it. It's freaking great. And he would obviously easily break Ken, so I mean, that's without question. I think the question I have is if he would break 5 million within that time to become the best winning player of all time within American game shows. And the answer is I have to think it's yes, assuming what we know, and this is really simplifying it, and I'm sorry you're not getting a better math thing for me here, but we just multiplied the 2462 216 by 2. We're going to get 4,912,432. And obviously it's going to vary depending on that. And I don't know if the break hurt him or help him. I really don't know. I feel like as much as that's an advantage time to study, but you don't get to handle the signaling device in that time, so it's not as familiar or comfort like, oh, I'm going to tape Jeopardy again on, let's say, Tuesday or Wednesday. But it's certainly something.
Right, so you're saying he would still be playing, according to the numbers.
Well, let's see. Well, the thought is that he would be playing around 71, 72. So, yeah, because it was going to be 68 at the end of this season, if I recall correctly. So, yeah, he'd be playing the first week of this season. Yeah, barely, but yeah.
And he would be around $4 million.
Yeah. Oh no, I think we would see more than 4 million. I think we'd be very close to the 5 million, but he would be just off it. And of course, the all-time record for Jeopardy is quite a bit. It's quite very close to that. Like Brad is so close to that. That's what have been made interesting.
Right, Brad won
4,688,436.
4.4 million.
4,688,436.
Wow.
And I think he would have, because that's very close to what, actually it's interesting. That's a very similar number to what I think we would have projected out for James in that respect. And James, again, hit me up. Dude, we both do sports betting, we both do Jeopardy. We seem like we're a good fit. James, of course, Ken was 3,370,700. There's every reason to think if he had won against Emma that gets obliterated and Ken moves into bronze before the next tournament. But that's just it, though. I wonder, because of tournament play and Jennings' age. Again, we talked about chaser reaction time. This is where that plays in. If Ken is going to be overtaken event, I think there's a good chance of it. I really do. It's not going to be the short term. James is only he's in his young 30s, so he's got about 10 prime years of quizzing left in him. But I mean, you go by the stats, it kind of benefits James. I think Ken was better in some respect, James better in others. Obviously, you had more runaway games because of the wagers were a lot bigger. I mean, you consider the average daily double wager was 89.84 for James, 32.65 for Ken. Average percentage of total winning earnings at that time was 94.74 for James, 85.5. Excuse me, that's what he got. I'm sorry. Sorry to confuse you. James had 94.74% of daily doubles, where Ken had 85.51. I mean, the bottom rows is really close too. It's 58.59 to 53.16. You get the idea. There is a good reason to think these are very similar players who excel in different reasons. It's kind of like comparing, I think, to draw a sports analogy, Mike Trout to Babe Ruth. And really, 15 years ago is forever in Jeopardy year, so it's not that far off of a reason. And especially when you consider, and I always thought this was impossible before James too, that we would see a run like this, because the pool is so much more accessible to players now as compared to sending in a postcard and hoping you get a city or something like that. Now we have the online quiz and the internet is everywhere.
Yep.
So, but at the same time, I maintain, and I watch old Jeopardy sometimes to compare and contrast to make sure I'm not going crazy about this. Jeopardy is easier than it was. It doesn't take anything away from James. If anything, it makes it more impressive because he has to do the signaling device for that and compete with players who also have a good chance at these questions. Again, small band of data players are going to be good players.
Mm-hmm. as you take that breath.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some of the stuff I make goes over my head because I admit I'm not a big stat wonk. But I completely understand what you're talking about. We see, I think when it comes to the type of player that you have now, I think back in the Ken Jennings day, this was pre-online quiz, where the pool was still quite, linear, one note, so to speak.
Yeah.
I mean, and plus he never had many. Plus Ken Jennings didn't have that many challengers that could actually go after him. I think the closest was Matt Ottinger.
Matt Ottinger. His first game he almost lost because it was, and people forget this too. It was kind of controversial to just take the surname, for his first Final Jeopardy, June 2nd, 2004, for Retton. I personally would have taken it, but some people say that should not have been taken. It's pretty unambiguous. I believe Ottinger was one. Obviously Zerg beat him, and then I think there were like maybe a couple of others at most. Like the number of runaway games that Jennings had, was 84.85%. So that means that 15.15%, or one in every, let's see, 15 is that. So once every 8 games, it was not a runaway. Obviously, that doesn't tell you times that he was close.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, games didn't have any really challengers either. But people weren't prepared to deal with his strategy. People were not familiar with the signaling device, and I think James's strategy, while good and obviously very successful, remains to be seen if it works well in tournament play when you're dealing with other people who have had such success. That's not to say he shouldn't do very well in the Tournament of Champions, but when you're talking about players going forward, like when you're talking about the younger players who are champions, like you talk about him facing, like maybe an Alan Lynn who might actually be an issue for him because of age. You talk about, I mean, Alan's probably the younger end of the spectrum.
Josh Jackson. Hill is the dark. I still contend Josh Hill's my dark horse.
What's Josh Hill's age again, or thereabouts, like ballpark it? Do you know?
Mid-20s.
Mid-20s. There it is. Then that's what's interesting to me. I want to see how he does against younger players because he didn't face all that many younger players, which is especially notable. And I maintain it's something that nobody is tracking about any quizzers about age. And I hate to mention it, but we can't ignore it either. We just can't. Ken was 30s. James was 30s. And I think you don't see a lot of 20s players because I maintain this about trivia as an avid player. I'm not the best. I'm pretty good, but I maintain you need to live through enough life that you can experience it rather than read about it.
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, I love reading about stuff and I can spit it right back out. But nothing beats real life experience when it comes to talking about facts because you have that underlying emotional connection. When I read a fact in a book, it's great. When I see a fact on a screen I didn't know, it's great. But when I lived a fact, I had my personal reaction to it. And so, like, I mean, I don't know if I've mentioned this before, but the Madeleine cookie is one of my favorite examples for so many different things. But think about when you talk about Proust and the memory cake. When you bite into the Madeleine, you have the memory. It's nostalgia, essentially. And I think, I mean, like when people talked about Press Your Luck, airing on USA or even when it originally aired on CBS, I'm like, that's cool. I wasn't around for that. I mean, I remember with GSN because I can talk about what that was like when they did the Big Buck special and everything. But I have no personal connection to when I got to see Press Your Luck rerun and so forth like that at that point because I wasn't around for it. If you're not around for something in trivia, yeah, you can memorize it, and I know that I ran on USA. Case in point.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, it doesn't really have any tangible meaning to me as a fact, other than the fact it's something I know. But having lived through something, having had reactions, having had sights, thoughts, and so forth about it, it evokes more parts of your mind. And that's why I think the peak age for trivia is It's mid 30s, young mid 30s. So I am holding out hope for my Jeopardy Kansas to be a super camp. I'm 27. Maybe someday.